Peggy looked at the both of us, the confusion clearly written on her face. Wesley's eyes went from me to her as though waiting for some sort of sibling rivalry. He didn't need to wait long. In this life that I had been given a second chance, my mission was to be at loggerheads with Peggy.
What are you doing here? What are you doing here with him, Eleanor?
I shrugged, then slowly moved the room card about so she would clearly see it. Don't worry about us, Peggy. He simply invited me to his room, and I was about to honor that invitation. Wesley's brows rose at me.
I didn't know you wanted to honor it now, Princess.
My name is Eleanor, I thought with gritted teeth. If he insists on calling me princess, then so be it. I'll only ride with it because I was in Peggy's presence. She looked between us again, then stared squarely at Wesley.
You were supposed to meet with me. Not my sister, but me.
Wesley shrugged, the amusement still dancing in his eyes.
She was the one I met, and she had such an amazing offer that it'd be quite stupid to turn her down.
What offer did she have? What offer is that?
Actually, it was me who made the offer, and so I'm waiting for her reply.
He raised his brows at me, indicating the room card in my hands. I waved it in the air again, moving my hand slowly and deliberately so Peggy sees it again. Oh yeah, sure, let's leave right away. He looked to be enjoying himself at our expense, even though it didn't seem like he understood. He motioned with his hands and I followed him, holding the card firmly in my hands.
Are you okay?
I looked up at him, realizing then that we had reached the hotel. Apparently, it was just around the corner and he had come out to meet me. I glanced back, not seeing Peggy, but sure that she was far behind me, still rooted to the ground in shock. She must have been aiming to meet this man, and then I came right under her nose and took him away. With I felt proud for this little feat that I achieved. I also didn't want to go. Vex my virginity away to prove my point. I remained silent as we went into the hotel and towards elevator. There were skates thrown my way, but that was the least thing that bothered me. My palms were sweaty. I even had to drop the card in my purse so my sweaty palms don't melt it away.
Did I happen to interrupt something back there?
I looked at him and then shook my head. He was seeking for a background story from me. Besides, it was Peggy that was arranged for him, and not the engaged elder sister. There's nothing you should know?
No.
He arched his brows at me, his perfect lips curved in amusement.
For a minute there, I swear I thought she was going to slap you straight in the face.
My phone chimed with notification. I reached for it just as I replied him. She could try, but I don't think it'd hardly make any difference. My message bar showed a text from Peggy. I've told Damon the disgusting thing you did right now. It read, and I'm going to wait downstairs for you in this hotel, you bitch. You can't run from me forever. I held the phone in my hand, my heart beating fast for so many different reasons. We had stopped in front of a room, and Wesley held out a hand for me, his eyes twinkling.
I can't just wait to have you, Princess.
Shaking off the tiny shiver that snuck into me, I reached into my bag and handed him the key, careful so my skin doesn't touch his. I refused to look at his painstakingly handsome face, his twinkling eyes, and the stupid smile on his lips. I thought instead of a way to escape this situation, to avoid spreading my legs for him. I immediately cringed at the thought.
Don't worry. I've been told that I'm a fairly good lover.
Fairly good. I looked him up and down. The man looked like someone who'd devour me and keep me high and above water. I shook my head at the thought. Nope, not gonna think about that. He finally opened the door and went in, then spread his arms for me to come in. I hesitated for a moment, long enough for him to realize that I don't want this. When I stepped in, I saw surprisingly that the room was set in an office setting. It was his office. The glass name tag on his table was written in his full name, and there was a couch by the side, but no more than that. When I looked back at him, there was a faint smile on his lips.
It's the last room in the hotel, Princess, and I made it mine. You looked shocked to have discovered it was an office. Did you want something else?
I blushed furiously, avoiding his eyes and rubbing my hands on my dress. So, you took me to your office in an hotel.
I own the place, Princess. I can do whatever I want with it.
Such as inviting as many women as you want? My phone chimed again with a notification. I reached for it. It was another text from Peggy. "You can't hide in there forever, Eleanor." I texted back, my hand moving fast over my keypad. "I'll spend the night here, my dear sister, so you're welcome to stay downstairs all night and wait for me." With that, I dropped my phone back into my bag and faced Wesley. He was watching me with interest, like I was a chessboard he wanted to pry apart one piece after the other. "I'll be spending the night here. Do you have any problem with it?" He smirked, so annoyingly handsome.
You intrigue me further and further, Eleanor Lenz.
He took one step towards me.
That's interesting, too, because I will be spending the night with you.
I thought wildly. There's no way that he was. Was he flirting with me? And why was he coming closer? I found myself backtracking with every step he took towards me. Wesley's face was caught to the side, examining me critically. I really didn't like the way he looked at me like that, like he was the master of mind games, and I was just a stubborn piece that didn't want to stay in place.
So how do we begin?
"Begin what?" I replied, my voice hitching in my throat.
You wanted to spend the night here, and so do I. I wonder what we're going to do about that.
His face bent down to mine, his eyes boring into mine. With him so close and his breath on my face, I could see every little pore on his face, and I was sure he could see my fading freckles too. His lips drew nearer and nearer. They were slightly full, but I imagine they knew how to do so many, many things. Gulping, I placed a hand on his chest and pushed him back just before his lips could touch mine. He chuckled, but it was short-lived and followed by another stare. I started to rub my lip, but I stayed my hand so as not to give myself away. "You're not my ideal man, Wesley. Stop dreaming." He chuckled, then leaned back on his work desk.
I've never had a woman reject me before.
"I'm not your ideal type of woman idea."
You don't know my type, Princess.
I started to name my sister as his type, but I held my tongue. I was not possibly his type, not at all. I wasn't as skinny as model like Peggy, who skipped meals at end just to look fit. I didn't need to skip meals. My sufferings alone was enough to dissolve my fate. Plus, I wasn't exactly confident in my beauty.
You intrigue me, and I'd like to find out exactly why that is.
So, what are you implying?
I'm ready to hear you, Eleanor. I want to know exactly what we're doing here and what we're talking about.
Now was the time. I cleared my throat and went around to his couch, then sat down. Wesley waited for a moment before he stood up and followed, sitting on the far end like he was giving me the space I needed. It was gentlemanly of him, acting that way when the both of us knows that he's just a playboy. "I propose that you get married to me."
Yes, you already mentioned that.
"It's not as simple as you think. The Chalamat and the Lenz family are business associates, so canceling a wedding is grievous. How about we do a fake one instead?" He leaned closer, his eyes twinkling once again with buried excitement and interest.
What are you suggesting, Eleanor Lenz?
"Just call me Eleanor, please." "And I'm suggesting that we get married under the guise of love. But we aren't really married. We only have to do this for a year or two, but I will not interfere in your private love life, and you will out interfere with mine."
Ah, is that so?
"Yes, it's the best offer you can get. I will not cage you with marriage, and our certificate will expire in years to come. We can discuss how long that will take us, but I want us to be together till next year."
Next year?
"Yes, yes." I stood up now, hyped from his continuous interest and enthusiasm. "In the future, possibly next year, the stock market is going to take coins very serious. I suggest we both invest in it while growing our business, and that we have more wealth to spare for ourselves for our separation." Wesley stood up with me, too invested to sit still.
You want us to plan money for the future?
"It's more than that, actually. I'll be giving you the tips to support your business because by then the stock market would be very big on coin exchange, you know?" He did not understand, but I continued anyways. "You don't have to carry much of the financial burdens. We'll be married under false pretenses, but underneath we're business partners. Now, if you invest a reasonable sum of money with me, O can turn it around with interest."
You want me to give you money so you can invest in this country business, so you can give me interest?
You're not giving me money, you're investing in me. We're going to be partners now, and after we get what we want, we separate. By then, it will be easy to spilt, and none of the family would be affected. What do you think? He stood still and stared straight at me, his eyes boring into mine. I was captivated by his intense stare that I lost myself in the blues of his eyes for a moment. When I looked away and the magic was broken, he smiled.
Eleanor, you have come to me with all I've ever wanted.
Really? Really?
Yes. My mother thinks marriage between our family will be a great match, and I have been thinking of ways to escape it until now.
There is no escape. If you do not follow my route, I'm afraid you'll have to wed my sister. I clicked my tongue as a thought came to me. Unless you want her. He went to the small wine bar in his office, took out a bottle of red wine and 2 glasses.
No, Princess. It is you I want. I find you interesting, and I'd like to see what the future holds for us.
I was startled by his words. No one had ever found me interesting before. No one.
Let us celebrate to a few years of partnership and marriage.
He poured wine into the glasses and passed one to me. I clicked my cup to his, marking the toast. I felt happy and lightheaded as I took a sip. Finally, Peggy's dream man was mine. He wasn't smiling this time. He was back at his desk, writing down a few notes. I was content to just look at him and drink the wine. I imagined how mad she would be now that she didn't have him.
You want more?
He asked, pointing to my empty glass. I nodded, excited. He kept pouring more for me until my vision was blurry. Then he sat down beside me and touched the ends of my hair.
I have a room nearby, if you don't mind.
That was the last thing I remembered.